Okay, year 6. So our next lesson this week, the one is exactly the same as it was for the previous lesson, which is to calculate the volume of a shape. That's because we're going to be building upon exactly what we did in the last lesson. We're looking at the volume of a shape, remembering that finding the volume of the shape is the number of cubes within a shape, remembering that it is in 3D shapes similar to this, a 3D shape. I've also got a Rubik's Cube here. A Rubik's Cube is a really good example of this, how many individual cubes are there within that shape. So remembering that also the unit of measurement that we use is the cube symbol, because of that, the number of cubes within a shape. Now, today's lesson builds on what we did yesterday, but it's more with the numbers involved are just slightly larger. There's no splitting up of shapes that we need to do within year 6 to find the volume of a shape, so don't worry too much. So if we were to have a look then at this shape here, we'll start off again first of all with a visual representation of it, a physical model. Remembering, can you remember what the formula was? B times H times W. Can you remember what that stands for? Hopefully you remembered that it stands for base times by height times by width. Okay, so if we were to calculate this, I could, first of all, I could count the number of shapes, but remember you could only have a number of cubes. You can only do that if you actually could pick up the shape like this, which if you get this question written down on a piece of paper, you wouldn't be able to do this. But let's see if we can count them, and then we will prove it by using the formula. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. So we know there are 32 cubes within here. Let's pretend these are centimetres again and make the cube symbol. 32 centimetres cubed, 32 cubes within this shape. Now, quite lucky though, I can pick this up. If you couldn't do that, if you just had this drawn out like the ones we're going to look at in a minute, we'd have to use the formula. So we need to see how many across this is, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the base is 8. The height is 1, 2. And the width going back is 1, 2 as well. So it's 8 times by 2 times by 2. Now remember, it doesn't matter which order we do this. We could do 8 times 2 first of all, which is 16, then 16 times by 2 gets us to 32, doesn't it? Or we could do 2 times 2, which is 4, 8 times 4 is 32. And you can see, because this is made up of here, a block of 4, and there are 8 of them, aren't there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's why 8 times 4 works. Or we could look here, looking 8 times by 2 is 16, and there are 2 lots of them. So that's why it doesn't matter which order you do your calculation, you would always get to that. If you remember, base times height by width. So let's have a look at another one. So if we look at this, I've used 3 different colours. The base, all 4 of those lines that you can see in black, they are all the base. The height, you can see they're all in pink, and the width, they are all in blue. Now, you just need to do the base times by the height times by the width. Now, the other difference with today's lesson from the previous one is the numbers we're going to use today are just slightly trickier. But we know how to multiply numbers together. It doesn't matter. It's like, think of it as a BIDMAS question. Think of it as a BIDMAS question of 11 times by 4 times by 7. Think of it like that. If you had that as a BIDMAS question, you would know how to approach it, wouldn't you? So let's begin to solve this. So remember, it doesn't matter which order you do them. Now, let's do, first of all, let's do these two. So 11 times by 4 we know is 44. However, I don't know what 44 times 7 is, but you do know how to multiply. So you can do this, can't you? Now, we know that 4 times 7 is 28. 4 times 7 we know is 28, add the 2, is 30. So the volume of this shape then would be 308 metres cubed. Yeah. So you can see it's slightly trickier than yesterday. In fact, I have to do this calculation here because I don't know what 44 times 7 is. However, you know how if I gave you that question, you'd be able to do that by itself. But just remembering base times height times width, and we've got there to 308 metres cubed. So let's have a look at this one again, because I think sometimes it can help by doing it with the 3 different colours. So if I was to make this 15 centimetres, and this one back, let's make that 8 centimetres, and this one up, let's make that 7 centimetres. So you could have a go, year 6, at finding the volume of that one for me. Remembering multiplying the base by the height by the width. Doesn't matter which order you do the multiplications. Okay, so let's begin to solve this then. So first of all, 15 times 7s, I don't know my 15s, but I do know my 7s and I do know my 8s. So we can begin to work this section of it out, the height by the width, because it is 15 times by 7 times by 8. So we can work this out, can't we? We know that is 56. We've multiplied these two numbers together, and we just need to multiply it by the base now, which is 15. Now, if I gave you that question by itself, 56 times by 15, you'd be able to work that out. So we can do that. So let's calculate. Let's do 5 times by 6, which is 30. 5 times by 5, which is 25. Add the 3, which is 28. Now remembering, because we're multiplied by 2 digits here, we need to add that 0 in here, don't we? Because this is multiplied by the 10. 1 by 6 is 6. 1 times by 5 is 5. And then we add these up, don't we? 0 at 0 is 0. 8 at 6 is 14. Carry that over. And then we've got 5, add 2, add 1 is 8. So the volume of this shape is 840. The unit of measurement is centimetres. The number of cubes within that shape. That's why we put the cube symbol. So the answer to this, 840 centimetres cubed. All we've done there is just multiply the 3 edges together, the base, the height and the width. Right, let's have a go at this one now without using the colours. So could you have a go at finding the volume of this shape? Base times height times width. 13 times by 8 times by 4. Right, so we are working out 13 times 8 times 4. Definitely don't know my 13 times tables, but I do know the answer to this, which is 32. So the calculation is 13 times by 32, and we can just work that out like this. So 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 1 is 2, add the 0 in because multiplying by 30, 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 1 is 1, and then we just add these up. 6 and 0 is 6, 9 and 2 is 11, 1 and 1 is 2. So the volume of this shape is 216 metres, the unit of measurement is metres, cubed. So you can see the procedure is exactly the same as it was the last lesson. The numbers are just slightly larger, which means that you just have to do this extra step of multiplying them together. So let's have a go at one more before we end today. So let's make the numbers a little bit larger. Let's have 17 centimetres. Let's make this one 14 centimetres, and let's make this one 7 centimetres. Right, could you have a go at working out the volume of that one for me? You might need to do two lots of column multiplication for this. Okay, so we need to multiply 17 by 14 by 7. Remember, it doesn't matter which order you can do them. You could multiply these two together first, or you could multiply these two together, or you could multiply these two together. It doesn't matter as long as all three numbers get multiplied together. So let's have a go at doing this first. 14 times by 7. That's not a one I know in my head. So let's use a method we do know. We know how to do this, don't we? So we can work this out to get our 28, and then 1 times 7 is 7, add the 2 is 9. So we know the answer to this is 98. So we need to do 17 times by 98. We work this out to get to 98, and now we just need to multiply it by 17. So let's put it up here where I've got some space. So we can begin to work this out now, and this will tell us what the volume of this shape is. So 7 times by 8 is 56, 6 goes there, the 5 gets carried over, and then 8 times by 1 is 8, adding this 5 on is 13. So this section we've done here is timesing by the 8. This section we're doing now is timesing by the 90. So because of that, we need to add this 0 in. So 9 times by 7, let's rub that out, is 63. 9 times by 1 is 9. Add this 6 is 15. And then we add them up, because if we add 90 and 8, it equals 98. So let's add these up. 6 and 0 is 6. 3 and 3 is 6. 5 and 1 is 6. And then 1 add nothing is 1. So the answer to this question, 1,666, the unit of measurement is centimetres cubed. So you can see we did have to do 2 calculations there, but neither of the calculations were ones that you don't know how to do. It's just remembering again that formula: base times by height times by width, multiplying those 3 numbers together to get to your answer. And because those numbers were a little bit larger, we just had to do 2 calculations to do that. So today, year 6, the questions you will have will be similar to this, with working out the volume of these shapes just with slightly larger numbers.